There is a moment right before a massive grass court showdown when the entire tennis world seems to lean forward at once. And that moment is happening right now as the 2026 Bad Homburg Open kicks off its opening round with a matchup nobody saw coming on paper, but everybody is desperate to watch. A 21-year-old Filipina who has spent the last week turning the WTA Tour upside down, stepping onto the lawn against a Belgian craftswoman who has already beaten her twice and seems to know exactly which buttons to press. And if you have been chasing down a stream of this one before it disappears, then you have landed in exactly the right place, because what follows is the full story, the numbers, the history, and the tactical chess match that makes this collision so much bigger than a simple first-round tie. So settle in, because we are going to walk through every piece of it together, starting with why this particular week on the calendar matters so much that careers can be reshaped in the span of a few matches. The grass swing on the WTA Tour is famously short, barely a handful of weeks squeezed between the clay of Roland Garros and the hallowed courts of the All England Club, which means every single point played right now carries weight far beyond the trophy on offer. Players are recalibrating their footwork for a surface that behaves nothing like clay or hard court. Their timing has to shift overnight, and their entire tactical approach gets rewritten in real time. For Alex Eala this week in Bad Hamburg is not just another tournament stop. It is the proving ground where she has to show the tennis world that her breakthrough was real and not a flash in the pan. And the draw that came out just hours ago delivered about as dramatic a opening test as you could script, pitting her directly against Elise Mertens, a player who has already given her 2 harsh lessons on different surfaces. The reaction across forums, group chats, and press boxes was immediate, equal parts thrill and genuine uncertainty, because nobody is quite sure which version of this matchup we are about to get. Will the surging 21-year-old finally break through against the tactician who has had her number? Or will the veteran once again find the formula to slow down a player riding the highest wave of confidence in her career? This is the headline fixture of the round for a reason. It has the shape of a changing of the guard story, but with enough doubt baked in to keep you guessing until the very last point. And to really understand why people are talking about Eala this way, you have to rewind just a few days to what happened in Berlin, because that tournament fundamentally altered how the sport sees her. Going in, she was already known as a serious talent, a former junior Grand Slam champion with a forehand that can flatten out and a competitive streak that never seems to run dry. But what she produced on German grass took her from promising to genuinely dangerous. She did not sneak through a soft draw. She went through 2 top 10 players back-to-back, first taking down world number 2 Elena Rybakina, a former Wimbledon champion whose serve and raw power make her one of the most feared competitors on any fast surface, and facing that kind of weapon on grass is considered one of the toughest assignments in the entire sport. Yet Eala walked out there looking less like an underdog and more like someone who genuinely believed she belonged. She absorbed Rybakina's pace, redirected it with sharp angles, and returned with a level of precision that had people in the stands shaking their heads. The scoreline read 7-5, 6-4, and it was not a fluke. It was a complete tactical performance built on discipline and nerve. Then, instead of fading after that statement win the way so many young players do, she backed it up immediately against world number 8 Elena Svitolina, a player renowned for her court coverage and her ability to grind opponents down through sheer defensive intelligence. Eala dismantled her in straight sets, 6-3 and 6-4, dictating rallies, stepping inside the baseline, and closing out points with a kind of aggression that simply left Svitolina without answers. 2 consecutive wins over top 10 opponents in the same week is the kind of statement that gets a player's name circled by every analyst on tour. Her run finally ended in a hard-fought semi-final against the Czech player Linda Noskova, who edged her out 6-2, 6-4, and while losing always stings, the broader picture out of Berlin could not have been more positive. Eala proved beyond any doubt that she has the game to compete with the very best. The financial reward was significant too, with a semi-final finish worth roughly $57,000. But the number that actually matters for her season is her ranking. She has now climbed to 30 in the live WTA standings, and that number 30 is not just a vanity metric. It sits right on the edge of the seeding cutoff for Grand Slam tournaments. Breaking into the top 32 guarantees a player avoids the very best seeds in the opening rounds of a major, which means if Eala can hold her position through Bad Homburg, she walks into Wimbledon seeded, dodging the kind of brutal early draw that has derailed so many talented players before her. That single fact adds an entirely different layer of pressure to this match against Mertens. Every game here is not just about advancing in Germany, it is about protecting a ranking that could shape her entire Wimbledon campaign. Now let us shift focus to the other side of the net, because Elise Mertens is anything but a straightforward opponent. The Belgian has spent years entrenched near the top of the sport, and while she is often discussed as one of the finest doubles players of her generation, that doubles pedigree bleeds directly into her singles game in ways that make her especially dangerous on grass. This is a surface that rewards smooth transitions to the net, smart use of slice to keep the ball skidding low, and sharp anticipation of passing shots. and Mertens checks every one of those boxes with ease. She does not try to blow opponents off the court with raw power the way a Rybakina or an Aryna Sabalenka might. Instead, she dismantles them through patience, depth, spin variation, and relentless court coverage that slowly forces errors and invites short balls she can pounce on. Her flat backhand can change direction down the line with frightening precision, and her experience in pressure moments runs deep. She has reached Grand Slam semifinals, collected a long list of titles, and learned how to manage the emotional swings of a tour-level match better than most, all of which brings us to the head-to-head record between these two, which currently sits 2-0 in favor of the Belgian, and digging into those two previous meetings tells you a lot about the tactical hurdles Eala still has to clear. The most recent clash came back in April at the Madrid Open on the high-altitude clay of Spain, and it was not close. Mertens delivered a clinical 6-2, 6-1 beatdown in the round of 64, completely smothering Eala's aggression by using heavy topspin to push her back behind the baseline and exploiting her footwork on the slower surface. Eala finished that match with 0 aces and 0 converted break points, while Mertens calmly converted 5 of 11 break chances. Before that, the two had met back in October of 2023 at the Jasmine Open in Tunisia on hard courts, and that one was a touch more competitive in the opening set, with Mertens edging through 7-5 before pulling away decisively in the second to close it out 6-love. The pattern across both matches is unmistakable. Mertens weathers the early bursts of aggression, identifies the cracks in Eala's defensive transitions, and then ruthlessly exploits them once she gets the upper hand. Her ability to flip defense into offense has repeatedly rattled the younger player, pushing her into rushed decisions and unforced errors as she tries to force her way back into points. But here is the variable that genuinely changes everything about this particular meeting. Surface: the Madrid match was on clay, the Tunisia match was on a slower hardcourt, and Bad Homburg is being played on fast, pristine grass, and grass fundamentally rewrites the physics of a tennis match. The ball skids through low, travels faster off the bounce, and punishes anyone who plays too passively. The heavy topspin that served Mertens so well in Madrid loses much of its bite on grass because the ball simply does not bounce high enough to create the same discomfort. It sits right in the strike zone of an aggressive, flat-hitting player, and that shift favors the current version of Eala in a major way. The player we watched in Berlin was stepping inside the baseline, taking the ball impossibly early, and hammering flat, penetrating ground strokes that leave almost no time for opponents to reset. On grass, that approach becomes lethal. If she can carry that same rhythm and self-belief into this match, she has a genuine chance to strip away the time Mertens needs to build her usual defensive webs. Her serve has also sharpened considerably in terms of both placement and pace, and on grass a well-located first serve can produce a weak return or an outright winner almost automatically, putting the server instantly in control of the point. For Mertens, the blueprint shifts accordingly. She will likely lean heavily on that slice backhand to keep the ball skidding low and out of Eala's preferred strike zone, trying to draw her forward and test her movement and net skills. Rather than letting her simply tee off from the baseline, expect her first serve percentage to be crucial too, since she will want to avoid feeding second serves to a player who has been punishing them mercilessly in recent weeks. Ultimately, this match could come down to a fairly simple question: who controls the baseline? If Eala gets to plant her feet and swing freely, her power alone might be enough to overwhelm the veteran, but if Mertens can use her craft, depth, and variety to disrupt that rhythm and force Eala to hit on the run or off her back foot, the experience edge tips firmly back in the Belgians' favor. There is one more storyline running alongside all of this that deserves real attention, because Eala is not only competing in singles this week, she is also playing doubles, and not with just anyone. She has been paired with one of the most decorated champions the sport has ever produced, Venus Williams. Think about that for a second. A 21-year-old breakout star from the Philippines sharing a side of the court with a 5-time Wimbledon singles champion. The two of them are set to face the doubles pairing of Shuko Aoyama and Aina Shibara in the opening round, and this partnership is an extraordinary opportunity in its own right. Venus remains one of the most instinctively gifted grass court players in history. Her serve, her reach at the net, and her fearless mentality have defined an entire era of the sport, and the chance to share a locker room, a practice court, and a match court with that kind of presence is the sort of education that simply cannot be replicated through coaching alone. Every return Eala sharpens, every volley she refines, and every high-pressure doubles point she navigates alongside Venus could quietly feed directly into the composure and court awareness she brings into her singles match against Mertens. The tournament itself carries plenty of weight beyond this single matchup as well. Tucked into a historic German spa town, Bad Homburg has built a reputation as the perfect tune-up before Wimbledon, offering true, fast bounces on courts that are meticulously maintained. For a player like Eala, Performing well here is about proving that Berlin was not a one-off explosion of form, but rather a genuine new baseline for what she is capable of. It is about showing she can absorb a tough semi-final exit and pivot immediately into peak focus against a familiar and difficult opponent. And when you step back and look at the psychology each player carries into this match, the contrast is striking. Eala arrives with the loose, expansive confidence of someone who just shattered her own ceiling. Those wins over top 10 competitors have given her an almost intoxicating belief that her best tennis can trouble anyone on tour. But she is also carrying real external weight. Back home in the Philippines, she has become a genuine national story, with millions tracking every match and hoping to see her secure a seeded run at a major for the first time. Layered on top of that is the simple fact of a 0-2 head-to-head deficit against the very opponent standing across the net today. She has to walk out there and consciously set aside the beating she took in Madrid only weeks ago, trusting that the version of herself thriving on grass bears little resemblance to the one that struggled on clay. Mertens, meanwhile, is carrying a different kind of pressure entirely, the pressure of protecting her standing. She knows she is facing a sharper, more confident opponent than the one she has beaten twice before, and she cannot simply lean on the Madrid game plan and expect it to work again. She has to adapt to both the surface and the new level Eala is playing at. If she comes out flat or overly passive, she risks getting blown off the court by sheer firepower, which means her path to victory likely involves classic veteran gamesmanship in the best sense, controlling tempo, taking her time between points whenever Eala starts to find rhythm, and refusing to show even a flicker of negative emotion regardless of how the score shifts. When you boil this matchup down to its tactical essentials, the keys for each player become fairly clear. For Eala, the path runs through controlled aggression, a high first serve percentage aimed at the corners to open up the court early, and on return games, especially against second serves, she needs to step inside the baseline and attack. Whether that means driving the ball deep through the middle to take away angles or ripping it down the line for clean winners, she also has to be willing to finish points at the net when chances appear, denying Mertens the opportunity to scramble her way back into rallies. And above all, she needs emotional steadiness. If a few aggressive shots miss the mark, she cannot retreat into a passive shell. She has to trust the exact game plan that carried her to a Berlin semi-final. Just days ago, for Mertens, the path runs through disruption and depth, landing ground strokes consistently within a couple of feet of the baseline to push Eala onto her back foot, leaning heavily on that slice backhand to skid the ball low and force Eala to generate her own power from an awkward position, and serving with intelligence, mixing body serves to jam her opponent with wide slices designed to pull her off the court entirely. If Mertens can stretch points into long, grinding exchanges, her fitness and tactical patience become a serious weapon. She wants this match to feel like a chess game, while Eala wants it to feel like a sprint, and that clash of competing rhythms on the slick grass of Bad Hamburg is exactly what makes this such a compelling watch. It is the classic tension between the unstoppable momentum of youth and the immovable discipline of experience, and the fact that so many people are tuning in specifically to track every shift in momentum, every passing shot, and every tactical adjustment says everything about how much this sport rewards genuine investment in its storylines. We are watching to see whether Eala can slay yet another giant on her improbable rise, or whether Mertens closes the door one more time and reminds the rising star that the tour does not hand out easy lessons. So as we wrap up this breakdown, it is worth stepping back and recognizing exactly what is on the line here. This opening round match in Bad Homburg is a window into where women's tennis might be heading next. Eala is no longer just a name to watch for the future. She is a present-tense threat actively reshaping the rankings in real time. Her climb to 30 in the world is the product of relentless work, constant travel, and a competitive resilience that does not bend easily. But rankings are fragile things. Points have to be defended and earned fresh every single week. A win over Mertens here would do more than even the score in their head-to-head rivalry. It would send a clear signal that her grass court game is the real deal and that she is ready to do serious damage at Wimbledon. For Mertens, this match is about pride and about proving she still belongs among the players capable of stopping the hottest form on tour. A win here would remind everyone watching that experience and tactical intelligence still carry enormous weight on the lawns, and either result pushes the winner deeper into the tournament with valuable momentum and ranking points. Heading straight into the most important fortnight of the season, we have covered the explosive run through Berlin, the contrasting history on clay and hard courts, the way a single change of surface can completely rewrite the expected outcome, and the fascinating doubles partnership lending Eala a front-row seat to one of the greatest grass court players in history. All of it converges onto one rectangle of grass in Germany. So keep watching closely, study the footwork, watch how Eala handles those low skidding slices, and see whether Mertens has the answers needed to slow down a player who currently feels unstoppable. This is the sport at its most raw and most absorbing. Two completely different visions of how to win a tennis match colliding under the same sky. And there is no way to know how it ends until the final point is played. So stay locked in, enjoy every exchange, and let the rackets settle the argument that words simply cannot.